Namaste. Hi, it's Jason Powers again, coming at you with another Take 10. I hope you're doing well, and especially during this strange quarantine time, um, I hope that you're finding the tools necessary to thrive as much as possible. Now, what we know from the science of happiness is that other people matter, period. So, when the founder of positive psychology, Marty Seligman, and another researcher, Ed Diner, studied the happiest people, they found that social connections, strong social connections, maybe weren't sufficient, but it was hard to find an enormous amount of people with happiness or a high degree of happiness without social connections. And other people matter not just for increasing happiness, but for mitigating your sorrow. So when bad things happen, when you're under stress, like a lot of us are because of being out of work or the quarantine, especially if you're at home with small children and they're not going to school, and it's just a really tough time overall. Um, it's important for us to focus on the bonds that we have, the social bonds. One thing in particular I'd like us to focus on during this Take 10 is that it's not just having social connections, but when we are focused on other people's happiness, our own happiness increases. And it's sort of like the more that you focus on yourself, on your own happiness, the more fleeting and out of reach it tends to be. So, what I'd like you to do for this Take 10 is to first anchor in your breath. So, get in a comfortable position, whether it's lying down or seated in the lotus pose, or whatever is most comfortable for you. And let's take a few breaths while observing where we notice it most in our body. Some people notice the heat of the air coming in through their nostrils or the back of their throat. Some people are belly breathers, so they notice the belly rising and falling with each breath. Some of us are chest breathers, mostly noticing when we're in this state of observation the breath in terms of how our chest rises and falls, or expands and contracts, if you will. So, as we get anchored in our breath, observing only, what I'd like you to do is envision the quarantine being over. So, everything's lifted, everything is back to as much of a normal state as we can expect. And I want you to think about what type of person you're talking to yourself about how you were during this time. Did you focus on others' well being or your own mostly? Did you foster those connections by spending quality time? It's easy to fall into a pattern when before COVID started, we were distracted and busy and running around. And only because of the quarantine, we're able to see what it's like to spend time with those who make life most worth living. That is our nuclear family, our um, circle of colleagues or work colleagues that we're able to connect with if we are working. For those of us that can be laptop, jockeys or whatnot, people in the community, although limited, that you interact with, maybe at the grocery store and so forth. But the people that aren't living in your house, that you're not connecting with, that you care about, did you make time for them on FaceTime or picking up the phone just to see how they were? Or are you talking to yourself in the future about how you just focused on your screen and yourself and playing your games or binge watching your shows while other people were in the home doing their thing as well? What type of conversation do you want to have in the future? That type of proactive framing or forecasting helps us in the present. And it's one of those sort of aha moments that seems sort of intuitive, but one that I personally didn't think about until I was exposed to the science of well being. That is, we can change our experience in the present by having that sort of mind experiment where our future self is looking back, talking to ourselves about what type of people we were during that time. And it can help mitigate stress as well. So, this was a very brief take 10, more like a take 6. But I do think that it's worth thinking about, letting it sink in, digest it, and see what happens. See if your behavior changes at all. And I'd be interested to hear about it. I'd love the feedback. So I hope you and yours stay healthy, connected, and focused on each other's well being. Namaste.